Good evening. Welcome to our Tuesday evening meeting. If you wouldn't mind, we're going to stand for an invocation and a pledge of allegiance.
If you wish, join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to give our elected officials the strength and wisdom to make decisions that benefit our county, our citizens. Strength for guidance. In we pray.
Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, at this time we're going to turn to our minutes and proclamations approval. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve, sir.
I heard a motion, and I think I heard a second as well.
Second.
It's been motion and second. Any discussion on those? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Okay. With that, we'll turn to the clerk. Madam Clerk, would you please read the first proclamation?
Yes, sir. Resolution 2013-225. A resolution proclaiming the month of November 2013 as Alzheimer's Disease Awareness Month in St. Lucie County, Florida. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida has made the following determinations. Alzheimer's disease is a progressive degenerative brain disorder that causes loss of memory, impaired thinking, confusion, disorientation, and death. In the United States, 5.4 million people have probable Alzheimer's disease, and 10% of these reside in Florida. Nearly 1 million Floridians are caring for someone with dementia. More than 450,000 Floridians, age 65 and over, have Alzheimer's disease or a related disorder, including 7,369 in St. Lucie County. About 80% of patients with Alzheimer's disease are cared for by family members. 70% of people with Alzheimer's disease and other dementias live at home where they are cared for by family and friends. It is important that the safety and well-being of our Alzheimer's families living in our local communities be preserved, as well as their dignity and quality of life, and that the services and resources are accessible to all cultures. This board extends its gratitude to those advocates and service providers, including Alzheimer's Community Care and the Alzheimer's Association Southeast Florida Chapter, who provide vital care and support, value the need for dementia-specific care, and support Alzheimer's families, as well as a cure for Alzheimer's patients. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida. This board does hereby proclaim the month of November 2013 as Alzheimer's Disease Awareness Month in St. Lucie County, Florida. This board urges the citizens of St. Lucie County to learn more about Alzheimer's disease and attend educational events that are free and open to the public during Alzheimer's Disease Awareness Month in St. Lucie County, Florida. Passed and duly adopted this 5th day of November 2013.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This time, I believe we have Bob Gorman and Deborah Thompson going to join us here at the podium. We have our resolution proclamations for you, and also love to hear a few words as well from you both. Pass. Hello, how are you doing? You as well. We have to come here for a little photo here. Let me give you this one. Photo is coming over. Why don't you tell us a few things? Thank you. Deborah, you can start.
The Alzheimer's Association Southeast Florida Chapter is deeply appreciative that the Commission is recognizing November as Alzheimer's Awareness Month. Raising awareness is an integral part of the Alzheimer's Association's mission, as well as research, education, care, and support for the people of Alzheimer's disease and their caregivers. Our helpline number is 1-800-272-3900. On October 19th, we held a walk to end Alzheimer's at the Port St. Lucie Civic Center, in which I was the chair for the 3rd year in a row. The residents of Port St. Lucie and surrounding areas raised over $70,000. These funds will help support research, education, care, and support for the living and those living with Alzheimer's and their caregivers on the Treasure Coast. We thank you so much.
Good evening. I'm Bob Gorman. I'm Secretary to the Board of Directors of Alzheimer's Community Care and Chairman of the Advisory Council, St. Lucie County, for Alzheimer's Community Care. And let me thank you, each and every one of you, for this proclamation and recognition of the importance of awareness of Alzheimer's disease, not only here in St. Lucie County, but throughout the country. We and the Alzheimer's Association are united in the need for recognition of the importance of this disease and finding a cure and providing relief and assistance to those who are caregivers and their loved ones who are patients. We need to show that this is not just an individual disease or a family disease, but quite honestly, a community disease. Alzheimer's Community Care mission assures that no family who has an individual, a loved one suffering from Alzheimer's will be alone during the time of that disease process, whether it be 2 years, 20 years, 10 years is the average time. We can demonstrate that through our corroborations with 211 law enforcement agencies, other local service providers, and our longtime partnerships with local clergymen and their parishioners that sponsor our Alzheimer's, dementia-specific daycare centers and service centers bring a positive benefit to the lives of the families in our community. We provide a safety net that is affordable and accessible. Part of our safety net can be found on the website, alzcare.org, as well as the 24/7 crisis line and educational programs, including A Life After Alzheimer's. We are very proud to report to you that for every dollar that is donated to our organization, 92 cents goes directly into services and resources for the patients and their family and their benefits. With our budget consisting of approximately 40% government funding and 60% private funding, we attempt to bring to this commission, to the communities that we serve, an expectation of effectiveness, efficiency, and transparency. We strive to continue to earn that honor every day. The proclamation acknowledges that you, as community leaders, recognize the importance of Alzheimer's education and awareness. Just as it takes a village to raise a child, so we've been told, it takes a community to support the families of Alzheimer's patients. Thank you all very much.
By the way, Bob, I was just going to mention briefly, I know my grandmother passed away from, obviously, people will talk about the number of diseases you go through, but Alzheimer's was what she was diagnosed with. And just the family struggle that we went through, going through that process and trying to look for resources and opportunities. So thank you as well for what you're doing to try and assist in that area and for what you're doing to help our area residents. We appreciate your service.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, real quickly, with apologies in case she was trying to remain under the radar, Mary Barnes, the Executive Director of Alzheimer's Community Care, is with us this evening, and I just wanted to recognize her presence.
With that, Madam Clerk, would you please read the next resolution, 2013-226?
Yes, sir. Resolution 2013-226, a resolution proclaiming the month of November 2013 as National Adoption Awareness Month in St. Lucie County, Florida. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida has made the following determinations. For more than a century, Children's Home Society of Florida has upheld our legacy of transforming the lives of children and families. On any given day, approximately 125 to 175 children are awaiting adoptions on the Treasure Coast, and in the last 3 years, over 350 children have been given the gift of forever families. Children's Home Society of Florida, Treasure Coast Division, works diligently with the Department of Children and Families to ensure that every child has a forever family. Children waiting for adoptive parents and families who have adopted these children require and deserve community and agency support. Children's Home Society of Florida, along with its community partners, embraces opportunities that can potentially change the way society cares for children and youth. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida. This board does hereby proclaim the month of November 2013 as National Adoption Awareness Month in St. Lucie County, Florida. This board encourages community agencies, religious organizations, businesses, and others to celebrate adoption, honor families that grow through adoption, further an awareness of the changes and issues in adoption, and focus attention on those children who live in the shadow of an uncertain future while they await forever families. Passed and duly adopted this 5th day of November 2013.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This time, we have Frank Avila and Christy Walsh, although I don't see Christy. Is she here? She couldn't make it, okay? Saw her today earlier, and she was harassing me about not having on a green shirt for the next item, which you're going to stay up here for as well.
I think Dave is going to ask.
Is Dave going to come up for that one? Okay, great. Thank you for this.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Tell us a few things.
Sure. Thank you. How is everyone this evening? Thank you so much. On behalf of the children and the families that we serve, Children's Home Society of Florida would like to thank the county commissioners for adopting this resolution recognizing the observance of November as National Adoption Month. As was said, since 1902, Children's Home Society of Florida has been here for our most vulnerable children and families. Today, we are celebrating the success of our adoption team, which helped to finalize 115 adoptions during our most recent fiscal year across the four-county area. Children's Home Society of Florida's adoption team expects to finalize between 30 and 35 adoptions during the month of November across our four counties, and we have a goal of 138 adoptions by June 30th, 2014. So, again, on behalf of the forever families and the children that we serve, we'd like to thank you and the community for your continued care and support. November 16th is going to be our National Adoption Day event. It is going to take place from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Langford Park in Jensen Beach. The event is to celebrate those families that have adopted, as well as to continue to raise awareness of the need for more local adoptive families in our community. It is a free festival, party, whatever you want to call it. We have live entertainment, guest speakers, face painting. It's free food and drink, entertainment from local youth across the four-county area. I invite all to come out and join us on that day. It's not just for those that have adopted or have a special heart for adoption, but for the community at large. Thank you very much.
Great, Frank. Good job.
Okay, our last resolution this evening is for the National Runaway Prevention Month. With that, Madam Clerk, would you please read that?
Yes, sir. Resolution 2013-227, a resolution proclaiming the month of November 2013 as National Runaway Prevention Month in St. Lucie County, Florida. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida has made the following determinations. For more than a century, Children's Home Society of Florida has upheld our legacy of transforming the lives of children and families. On any given day, approximately 800 youth are homeless on the Treasure Coast. The National Runaway Switchboard reported more than 280 crisis runaway calls from two Treasure Coast area codes, 772 and 863, during 2013. Children's Home Society of Florida Treasure Coast Division works diligently with the National Runaway Switchboard and the Family and Youth Services Bureau to educate and prevent youth in crisis from running away and subsequently living on the streets. Children's Home Society of Florida provides support services to youth in crisis that aim to move youth into stable living situations. Children's Home Society of Florida, along with its community partners, embraces opportunities that can potentially change the way society cares for children and youth. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida, this board does hereby proclaim the month of November 2013 as National Runaway Prevention Month in St. Lucie County, Florida. This board encourages community agencies, religious organizations, businesses, and others to recognize and observe the month of November 2013 as National Runaway Prevention Month. As a community, we need to focus our attention on those children who experience crisis and turn to the streets for support. Passed and duly adopted this 5th day of November 2013. Thank
you, Madam Clerk. This time, David Perline is going to join us up front. By the way, the Children's Home Society, you had a great event out at your facility today, and I'm just always amazed at what you're able to do to help provide for the children out there and the number of children that you're helping. But it is one that I see. Do you have on green? You're supposed to have green socks or green sandals. Isn't that what it is?
Actually, yes.
Is that it?
I've got green lights on my porch at home.
Green lights on the porch. Actually, speaking of which, did I hear something? Come on over. We have the microphone here. Did I hear the Sheriff's Department is doing something with green lights?
I've been in contact with,
You come to the microphone.
absolutely, I've been in contact with St. Lucie County and Martin County Fire Department over the last few months, and we've gotten together, and they've changed all their lights out to green for National Homeless Awareness Month. And they're all on board, and it's kind of a fantastic thing, and we've encouraged everyone to do so. Wear green, change your porch lights out.
We're always down with that, whether it's heels. Give us a cause. We're ready. That's good. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Let's take a picture here. Thank you, by the way. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Say a few words.
It was good seeing you today. Thank you, everyone. My name is David Paroline. I'm a street outreach counselor with Children's Home Society. I've been working very closely with the homeless youth and the troubled youth of up and down the Treasure Coast. The goals of the National Runaway Prevention Month are twofold. One, to raise awareness about the issues that runaways and homeless youth face, and two, to educate the public about the solutions to prevent youth from running away from home. In 2007, National Runaway Switchboard adopted the Green Light Project initiative to raise national awareness and garner media attention by participants lighting their porch lights green throughout the month of November. We currently encourage individuals and businesses alike to use their green lights throughout the month of November to help raise this awareness. Thank you for this much-needed awareness and helping the youth in their time of need. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And Mr. Chairman, before we move on, since it's Awareness Month, I thought I'd explain my faith. Well, that's a subject.
Wow,
very
that sounded good. I thought it explained my faith.
Let me explain my faith.
By the way, we're still getting a little feedback on the microphones.
Apparently, it's gone nationwide that there's a movement for awareness on prostate and testicular cancer. And I was called the other day from extended family member asking that since we get involved in the pink heels and the safe space issue with other red heels and so on and so forth, I was asked to grow a beard for the month of November to grow awareness, if you will, to the prostate and testicular cancer issues. So as difficult as it's going to be for me to grow this thing on my face for 30 days, I'm going to do it because it's important for the issue to be out there and people to understand that it's important to certainly be checked, see your doctor early. The individual with whom I'm speaking about was always very healthy, and until he reached his 60s, he had rarely gone to the doctor. But unfortunately, in his case, his prostate cancer had gone beyond the ability to treat early. So get checked early, especially, of course, men. Make sure you get out there, see your doctor, take the necessary precautions, and be aware that prostate cancer and testicular cancer can be treated early. So get out there and take advantage and do the right things. So I'm sorry you're going to have to look at this, but it's worth it.
You know, I think it's great. We'll be able to call you Sid Zidowski here in honor of Duck
Commissioner
Dynasty.
Grizzly Bear.
And Shannon Martin from Port St. Lucie contacted me recently and said that she's asking me to leave it on for the Christmas parade in Port St. Lucie. So I'm not sure how to take that.
See a lot of gray in there. It's starting to look like Santa. Thank you. Okay, hearing no other comments on our presentations, we're going to go and turn to general public comment. This evening, anyone wishing to speak before the commission, please feel free to do so. We welcome you, except for Mr. Joe Edge. Anybody else willing to? Hey.
Good evening, County Commissioners.
Good
It's been
evening.
a long time since I've been here, and I was wondering how I was going to address the issue I wanted to address, but you led me right into it, Commissioner Mallory. Give us a cause. I have a cause for you. I've been in favor of increase in property values and the aesthetic value of the city and the county as an effort to draw new residents here, and new businesses. Every time somebody drives down Prima Vista Boulevard, or somebody that is aware about it as I am apparently, I get a phone call about how terrible Prima Vista Boulevard looks. And I got to tell them, it's not the city, it's the county. River Park area, I would be embarrassed as a resident of St. Lucie County to say I lived here once you drove through that community. A couple weeks ago, I sent 5 emails out to each one of you. I got 1 response from that. I'm not going to, it's not about who it is. It's about a 20% response rate from the people that I voted to put there to make my county better. And River Park and Prima Vista is just that much a part of the problem. Code enforcement and property values in the county are not taken seriously. The Code Enforcement Department has 2 full-time employees and 2 part-time employees for the whole county, okay? And if you want to see how effective it is, don't look at statistics, because the members of the council and management in Port St. Lucie looked at statistics for years, a 97% effectiveness rate. Drive through the communities and look at it. Drive through River Park. Drive through other areas of the county and look at what the people that voted you into office have to live next to. And just ask yourself one question. Do I want to live next to that? Would you buy a house next to that? Okay? Has anybody, and you don't have to, no show of hands, but ever heard of a document called Broken Windows? It was a study done a long time ago about the results of blight and blighting influences on our community and how it leads to terrible looking neighborhoods and crime. Okay? I was shocked that some of you aren't even aware of that document, and you're elected to represent us. Property values, every year we talk about the budget here, okay? And we stay so focused on millage rates. That equation has 2 factors in it, millage rate and property values. Nobody says, well, let's keep the millage rate the same. What can we do about raising property values in the county? You know, we wonder why some businesses don't want to come here and residents may not want to live here. All you got to do is drive through some of these neighborhoods. And Port St. Lucie has the same problems too. We are not perfect, okay? But we have to start taking property values seriously. So you wonder why a guy like me is standing up here pounding the podium about property values. Who should be standing here? Where are all the realtors in this county? Property values drive their business. That's what their business thrives on. That's how they make a living. I haven't seen a realtor up here, the Board of Realtors, any of those organizations. You know, we have some issues with that, and if we want to generate more revenue, we need to start taking property values seriously, okay? I did take some notes, and I want to just make sure I cover everything. I think I have. But we need to solve this problem, you know, and Port St. Lucie isn't immune from it. I'm almost done. We had a city manager there that was banging his fist. We have a 97% effectiveness rate, 97%. And you know what? 97% of nothing is nothing. All you got to do is drive through the neighborhoods in the city and this county. We have a serious problem with property values and code enforcement in the county. We need to fix it. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
If I may, Mr. Chair, Mr. Edge.
Sir?
Before you go, I know personally my office did get in contact with a staff member to get in contact with you. So sometimes when we don't personally get in contact with you, don't mean we haven't dealt with the problem.
That's fine.
So I just want to let you know that.
Anyone, Mr. Johnson, anytime you want to do a ride-along, I'm not a hard person to find.
And I'm
Let's
not. We can do that.
River Park,
We can do that.
me and you.
Call my office. We'll get together.
Okay.
And
Anybody else?
before you go on,
I'll rent a van.
good. Well, we can't actually do that because of sunshine.
Right, sunshine law.
But let me offer this, just so you know, Joe, is that this board actually did support the broken window process, the theory, and as a matter of fact, several commissioners came out in Fort Pierce. As you may know, as part of the broken window theory, the crime follows.
Right.
And so, as you may know, we have an area in the county that has over 115 shootings, 15 murders, and so on. So the focus was primarily in that area, especially for the broken window process. Our code staff has been working in that region, as well as with the city of Fort Pierce and their code enforcement. As a matter of fact, we've actually posted, and the city has posted so many different properties. Yes, I'm not going to say we don't have an issue, because we do. Let's face it. And largely, the blight also comes from the foreclosed homes, the vacant homes, and so on and so forth. But the homes that do have somebody living in them, we should absolutely get on and be part of the solution. So you're right.
And you know, besides that, if I may, besides that as well, we don't know everything. That's why we make a collective effort with the citizens to make sure that we're taking care of the communities, make sure that we're bettering our county. So with your effort, with your help, and your assistance, and your conviction, we can make it happen together.
Well, you would, a little levity. When candidates run for office, they're supermen. You know, it seems like the day that you take your oath, there's kryptonite somewhere, okay? And the statistics and everybody doing this, the code enforcement people that work for the county, they know their job.
Joe, if you could
What's
speak
happening
in the
is-
microphone.
Oh, sorry.
There you
The
go.
code enforcement people in this county, Ms. Graziani, Melissa, they know their job. What they don't have is the tools to do their job, okay? They don't, the code enforcement board in this county is a freaking joke. These people, they all know how to get around it. So I don't want to take up too much time, but I'd like to talk to you individually. You know, we can go take a ride around, and you can see exactly what I mean.
Give me a call, set up.
I will,
All right.
tomorrow morning. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Enjoy your evening.
Just as an aside for the board, we actually have both the City of Port St. Lucie staff as well as St. Lucie County staff working on Joe's issue. In fact, he's quite aware of that aspect. This past week, several meetings also occurred. So a lot of things are in motion on that area, just
Excellent.
to make you up to speed. And I know Paul is, since this is in her district, she's also been brought up to speed in terms of what's happening there. So some good things are actually going on, and some good
Well, I knew Monica was on it because
some good collaborative efforts.
she emailed me, and I spoke, not me personally, Ms. Suter, my aide, spoke with her as well concerning that situation. So it wasn't like we wasn't dealing with it. We were.
Good evening.
Good evening. Sean Mitchell, Chairman of the Green Collar Task Force, an apprenticeship training program that we're partners with the county here. I just want to give you an update. The Green Collar Task Force Apprenticeship and Training Program are developing along quite nicely. This past year, the participating trades held so far, and the year hasn't ended yet, 274 classes with 134 students enrolled. Of these, 97 reside in St. Lucie County. We've only had 17 completions certified to date. Our retention rate is 87%. And the reason I speak in front of you tonight is that we went in partners with the county. We as a collaboration have invested nearly $1 million in the last 3 years on the build-out, training, books, classroom, teachers, and we report this monthly to the purchasing department. And on your agenda tonight, on page 10, under administration, a bid award to Jocelyn & Sons for $2,399,500. You have a policy in place, and I know that we had some issues when you had the federal courthouse because there was monies from the federal government. I just plead with you. We had young men and women here that have been 3 years waiting for a job to work with the county. They live in your county, and that we've held up to our end of the bargain, and we're just asking that these young men and women aren't asking for a handout. They're asking for a handout. And I would hope you would guide yourselves accordingly. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Good evening.
My name is Linda Nichols Addison. I live at 1450 Southwest Selene Avenue in Port St. Lucie. I just had a thought this afternoon that I think it should be brought to the attention again of everyone in this room and everyone in this county and everyone in this country, that we're only a few days away from November the 11th. It has been changed from Armistice Day to Veterans Day. and my family being a veteran family, I would like to feel that everybody in this room on the 11th will be wearing a poppy. I think we should remember the over 50,000 American soldiers who were the deciding factor in the First World War. We should remember that 20% of the young men of France were killed defending their country. We should remember that over 2 million British people were lost defending the continent and defending their way of life, which was our way of life. Add to that the Canadians, the Moroccans, and people from all over the world. It was truly the Great War. I think when we worry about streets, and we worry about a pothole, and we worry about a little trash that didn't quite get collected, we should spend a little more time worrying about what our history is. And I would like to give you a few words of a Canadian that you all know, but most of you don't remember. In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, while in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, but now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields. I would like all of us that call ourselves Americans to remember to defend our country and defend our freedoms as our people have defended the freedoms of others across the world. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Commissioners. How y'all doing?
Doing fine.
My name is Maurice Shazier. I'm president of Dream Vision TV and Dream Mobile. I'm standing here tonight just to introduce what I'm doing here in the Treasure Coast community, as well as other counties. I was born and raised in Fort Pierce, graduate of Fort Pierce Westwood High. I started a television network called Dream Vision TV. And it's literally live cable internet television from your iPhone, iPad, Android phone, computer, desktop. And I'm here tonight just to solicit you all's help in just helping me in what I'm trying to accomplish through the television network. 2 months ago, we started a show on the network, Channel 772, called Step to the Mic. Step to the Mic is our way of trying to rescue kids that have major hopes and dreams of becoming an artist. Not every kid is an athlete, but every kid thinks they're the greatest rapper in the world or the greatest singer in the world. So Step to the Mic is like an American Idol or The Voice or Sunday's Best, where we literally have them the opportunity to come out and audition on the television show. We just ended season 1, where we're trying to reach out to help stop the senseless killings and gang violence. Representative Lee is joining my effort, and the Black Box Theater downtown Fort Pierce has partnered with us. And what we're doing is trying to reach the lost, the kids that are in gangs, that are killing each other. And we've been through so many funerals as of over the last 6 months. And it's because they really don't have a place to channel this negative energy. So Step to the Mic is their chance. Many of them just don't have $2,000-$3,000 to fly to American Idol or The Voice or Sunday's Best. So what we've done is we brought it right to their backyard. And they come out and audition. I'll put a network up so you can see it. It's on everybody's that. If everybody can focus to the monitors, this is the television network itself. When you download it to your computer or desktop or laptop,
Polaris features a submarine for hunting deep.
the television plays just like that. Even for the millions of people that are poor and don't have cable, they can have this free television network for free on their phone. Everybody in the world has a phone, so they don't even have to really have internet at home because every one of them have Metro, Boost, or AT&T or T-Mobile. And when they want to change channels, it's a little bit different for each device, but if I wanted to change the channels on the network, you just do that and it takes you to the next channel. And it's very clear, it's very proficient. I'm just asking for you guys to help me get into the schools to show this to the high schoolers. Step to the Mic is from age 14 on up. It's 3 categories: hip-hop, R&B, and gospel. I've went to the school board and begged and pleaded to just help me get this message to the children. One of our judges, I'm sure Commissioner Johnson knows, and I think Commissioner Chris Waski knows, that his 21-year-old son was killed senselessly. And a lot of this stuff is going on because, you know, you can't say let's go to church anymore because that's not attractive to them. So our job is to get them in by the form of the television. And then we began to clean and work on them and give them hope. And we give away $1,000 in each category. We give away trophies. We give away the music contract. And we give away their own music video. And then we air it on the network for 90 days. All I'm basically asking is maybe we can meet, and if you know, if we can even get help making it bigger, offering even bigger prizes, and just help stop the senseless killings and give young people hope. One of my judges is here with me tonight. Tracy, the young man that lost his son in gang violence, is one of the judges. And there's so many young people that this will give them hope, because once it airs on this network, and once it airs on this network, it's not a Treasure Coast thing, it's global. Everybody in the world that has this free app can see them. Record labels can look at them and decide whether they want them either further past us. So I'm just asking, you know, if you all could, let's meet, let's talk, and let's figure out, you know, how Westwood High School is the only school so far that has given me the opportunity to come out and do a little pep rally to introduce Step to the Mic and show them how it works. I've tried to reach out to many other high schools, but I know it's a little task, and I'm not pointing any fingers or anything, but I'm just asking if we could. This is a game changer in the lives of so many people. You can even own a channel. If a pastor wants to preach on the television network, if we want to create our own sitcoms that we grew up on, the Brady Bunch, Good Times, whatever, we have a paid internship. A junior or a senior from any high school can come and they can learn music, editing, film. We pay them $100 a month. They come in, we teach them the skill set so that we give them life skills in a field that they love and have a passion about anyway. So I so kindly and humbly thank you for this time, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Maurice, will you meet with Allie and make an appointment so we can sit down and talk and brainstorm?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Make sure you call my office as well, and we'll get together and set up a time.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I'm sorry, Mr. Assistant Administrator. I'm nearsighted. I can't read your name. My name is Richard, and Mr. McIntyre and staff. My name is Richard Silvestri. I live at 5708 Buchanan Drive, Fort Pierce. I just wanted to say that I have worked for 3 different cities in South Florida, and when you add up my full-time and my FTE hours, because it wasn't full-time with one of them, you know, I have 28, 29 years experience. I also was certified as a general contractor in 1971, and I've pulled, my share of building permits, and I've dealt with building departments. And I even worked as a building inspector on a part-time basis. And I just wanted to say that I have dealt with this county, with the employees, with the staff, with the administrators and department heads in all different degrees over the years, and I've dealt with other cities too, as I said. And I just wanted to compliment. I wish there was more people in the room to hear this, but I find this county the employees here very, very helpful to me, and I think a lot of other people in the public would agree. They just go out of their way to help you out. I dealt with Mr. West a couple of years ago, and he helped me out with a situation by my house. And I've pulled some permits, over in the next building at what I call the building department. This new terminology throws me a little bit, but I think that comes under Mr. Satterley's direction. And it's kind of comical because South Florida, particularly Miami, where I was born, building departments were like awesome. I have seen developers go down in front of the building inspectors and the staff and literally shaking their boots because they have this tremendous power. And it's just really, really nice to not only live here, but to actually work here too and to deal with your staff. So if you could just, and they're working double time because money is short and they've had to fill in because there's, you had to lay off people and all. And they're really doing a commendable job, and I really enjoy working with everyone. They're very polite, cordial, personable, and they do their job. And if you would just pass that word along for those that aren't here tonight, and some of the department heads that are here, please let your staff know what I said. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Silvestri. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. For the record, Patrick Campion, 6030 Indrio Road. Just a couple of things to touch on tonight. I guess first I'll start with Commissioner Zadowski. The beard looks great. I like it. Maybe I'm a little biased, but I think it looks good. I think by the end of the month you'll be convincing yourself to keep it.
No way.
No way, huh? All right. All right, so I want to go ahead and touch on an important issue that we've been dealing with all summer long, and that has been the water releases from Lake Okeechobee and basically the destruction of our very fragile ecosystem in the Indian River Lagoon and St. Lucie River. I know that the water has stopped, and unfortunately that for some has taken the urgency out of what we've been trying to get accomplished to help alleviate some of the pressure on the wildlife. And I want to implore I know the county commission at first didn't want to talk about it, then you guys had staff looking into it, and I know it's coming back to you, and I really need to say that we need to pass a really significant fertilizer ordinance in St. Lucie County. And it's something that we can do. It's not the only step by any means. It's a small step, but it's one that can be accomplished pretty easily and at very little to no cost to St. Lucie County taxpayers. And it would literally pull thousands upon thousands of pounds of phosphorus and nitrogen from our local waterways. And I really need for you all to think about it, make a commitment to the people of this county, because I think it's pretty clear that the people in the county have said which direction they want you to go. Now, the other thing, I'll go ahead and give a compliment. I sat in at your workshop last week for the future of the Port of Fort Pierce, and I'm very encouraged to hear that we're looking into doing a maritime academy at the port. I think that's a great move for the future of St. Lucie County. I know it's been a hot potato, well, not really a hot potato, because a hot potato has urgency in it. I know it's been a potato for many, many years that no one's been able to make heads or tails of or turn into a money, a real economic engine that it should be. It's a deep water port, and it should be an economic engine for this community. And I think a maritime academy is a great way to go, especially when we're dealing with the pressure on the St. Lucie River and the Indian River Lagoon. We don't need to have the trouble that extra cargo, which had been the original plans back in the day. Maritime Academy is a great thing. I know you guys have it on the agenda tonight. I do hope you continue to move forward with that with some sense of urgency, because we don't want to get scooped by any place else who may have the same idea. Thank you for your work. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Campion. Anyone else wishing to address the board this evening? Good evening.
Hi, good evening, commissioners and staff. I'm William McNeely, 2705 Sunrise Boulevard, Fort Pierce. I'm here to speak just for briefly about the lagoon. I was on the bus trip to Washington, D.C., and I wanted to thank Commissioner Hutchison and Commissioner Zadowski for attending that very important meeting, and it was quite productive. And I also wanted to really thank the Commission for declaring the state of emergency for the lagoon situation, because it is a dire emergency. And, you know, it's interesting that this movement has become probably the most popular movement that we've ever had in St. Lucie County. Literally thousands of people are involved, and I've never seen such strong support as we have now for cleaning up the lagoon. And so I wanted to mention a couple of interesting facts that have come forward again. As you know, Smithsonian and Harbor Branch are continually studying the lagoon, and our estuary is down to just slightly over 200 species, which we had over 4,000 before. And that's just really sad. For me, though, the most touching is the dolphins. And, you know, last time I spoke, I'd mentioned how our reef structures have disintegrated on the South Beach because of the waters that go out in that direction. And Stuart recently noticed, you know, the same thing and observed it. And that water, that polluted water, really has a major effect. And it's really, since we have declared it a state of emergency, time to do something about it. But about the dolphins, you know, new studies have shown that we have 2 dolphin families out here in our area. And we thought it was a lot more diverse than that. Those are not ocean-going dolphins. And so those aren't dolphins that would really be replaced someday if we cleaned up the lagoon, because dolphins don't really migrate here. These are old families that are established families. We had up to 800. And, you know, in June, we had about 47 deaths from January to June. And then July was calculated 52 deaths. And now we're up to 61 or 62 deaths. They're dying very rapidly. I did the math a while back, but, you know, we're losing quite a few every month. And if you start with 800, you can pretty much figure out they just have a few years left. The problem is with most of these estimations is it escalates dramatically. If you figure several dying a month now, that will increase to maybe 10 a month later or more. And so it'd really be sad to see those families totally destroyed. One of the biggest efforts that we can make here is to clean up the septic tanks and our canals that are moving through our county, and then also the fertilizers. I mentioned the fertilizer situation the last time I spoke here, and Commissioner Lewis had said we'd already had a fertilizer ordinance as I was leaving. And all I'd like to state about that is if we do have a fertilizer ordinance, nobody knows about it, and hasn't been enforced. That was news to all of us. We have the opportunity now to possibly follow the other counties and cities and create not only a fertilizer ordinance, but possibly the strongest fertilizer ordinance, really take the lead, because we're in the center of all the action right here. And, you know, we've lost over 60,000 acres of seagrass. There's just a little bit left, and Jim David has come up with some radical ideas to how to save that seagrass over by Blind Creek, which is really wonderful. But to create an environment for seagrasses to reestablish themselves, we've got to get rid of the fertilizer. You all would be real heroes because, I mean, these are thousands of voters that want changes in the lagoon. We should come up with the strictest fertilizer ordinance of all. And, you know, like Commissioner Zadowski, my lawn is beautiful without fertilizers. It's really gorgeous. So it's possible. And, you know, it's mainly going to affect yard services. And those guys will still make just as much money. So the business won't be affected much. And what it will really encourage, because this is a national and worldwide problem, is for companies like Scott Fertilizers is already coming up with an organic fertilizer. That was established because of Lake Michigan has the same problem. It encourages a movement to have new fertilizers. So thank you very much for the time. Thank you. And keep up the good work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. McNeely. This time we're going to close general public comment. We'll turn to the board. We have the consent agenda. By the way, in terms of items that were added prior to the meeting, item 7B13 was added, which was the restaurant agreement with DiMichelli's Catering. Are there any items that any commissioner wishes to pull for a separate vote or separate discussion this evening? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. It's been seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried unanimously. With that, we will turn to our regular agenda. This evening, we're going to begin with public hearings. We have item 8. This is under the county attorney. We're going to begin with ordinance 2013-41. This is our art in public places ordinance. With that, we will turn to staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Assistant County Attorney Catherine Barbieri will be handling this item.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, for the record, Assistant County Attorney Catherine Barbieri. What you have before you is the Art in Public Places ordinance.
Can you speak up just a little bit?
Yeah.
Either that the microphone is down.
There. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, yeah, I must not have been speaking into it, sorry. Assistant County Attorney Catherine Barbieri. What we have before you is Art in Public Places ordinance. When it was drafted, we had the council to mean the St. Lucie County Cultural Affairs Council. Since that time, that organization no longer exists, and the Board of County Commissioners has designated the Art and Cultural Alliance of St. Lucie County as the art organization. So the only change this ordinance would do would be change the word definition council to mean the new organization. It has been, permission to advertise was granted by the Board of County Commissioners. It was advertised in the paper on October 21st, and this is a public hearing, and staff is recommending the change.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? This is a public hearing. We'll turn to podium. Anyone wishing to address the board at this time, please feel free to do so. Seeing no movement, we will close the public hearing, return to the board.
Mr. Chairman, move approval.
We have a motion.
Second.
It's been motioned and second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried unanimously. With that, we will turn to item B, Planning and Development Services. This is Resolution 2013-231. This is a rezoning for Sean Hearing from RS4, Residential Single Family, to Commercial Office. This is a quasi-judicial item. With that, we will turn to staff.
Good evening, Britton Wilson. Good evening, Britton Wilson, Senior Planner for the record. Can you hear me?
The new technology we have.
So much, yeah. We do seem to be having little microphone issues there. A little more sensitive. I think we have to get right up on them.
Good evening, Britton Wilson, Senior Planner for the record, presenting a county-initiated rezoning for a half-acre parcel owned by Mr. Sean Hearing, who's requesting a change from residential single-family to commercial office. The parcel is located on Prima Vista Boulevard within the River Park Community Overlay Zone, where a future land use map amendment to commercial was approved by this board this past February, and where staff was also directed to revisit the overlay regulations on how best to accommodate the parcels on Prima Vista Boulevard in transitioning to commercial. And so staff will be holding a community workshop on Saturday, November 16th at the Fenn Center from 1 to 3. And a survey and invitations were sent out to over 2,500 River Park community residents.
This is a public hearing, and notice was published in the St. Lucie News Tribune on October 24th, and a neighborhood meeting took place on September 17th, where one neighbor showed up in support of the proposal. The property is located just west of US 1 on Prima Vista Boulevard, which is a 4-lane arterial divided highway operating at an acceptable level of service C. And mail notices were sent within the 500-foot mail notification, and we did receive one email this afternoon from a resident in opposition to the proposal. This map shows a future land use designation of the subject parcel as commercial, which is surrounded mostly by residential and conservation. This map shows the subject property and half of the surrounding area as residential single family at 4 dwelling units per acre, and the other half is zoned for residential conservation. The property is within the River Park Community Overlay Zone, so any redevelopment must follow stricter performance standards, such as a reduction in building height from the standard 35 feet to 25 feet. The required minimum parcel size is doubled to 20,000 square feet, and they are required to provide an opaque 6-foot wall or fence when bordering a single-family home. The overlay also restricts higher impact uses by prohibiting drive-throughs, restaurants, and gas stations. And as stated by the applicant, the purpose of the proposal is for medical office use. And so because the commercial office zoning is compatible with the surrounding area and the commercial future land use, staff is recommending approval of the county-initiated rezoning. And that concludes my presentation, and staff and the applicant are available to answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Chairman, if I may ask, Britton, I don't know if you got, I got a email at the end of the day. I just read it before I came in here.
Can you speak?
But, I'm sorry. Is that better? I just got an email at the end of the day. I don't know when it was sent to me, but I just read it at the end of the day. But there was some question as to why we would do a charrette on the area and then have this come in front of us now prior to the charrette. Can you help us with that?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Zadowski. This particular proposal in front of you is following the River Park Community Overlay Zone regulations. It's not proposing to change anything. It's following all of the regulations.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Mark Satterley, Planning and Development Services Director. And I think the other reason this is sort of the land use amendment and change that prompted the board to ask us to go and revisit the River Park Overlay District. So Mr. Hearing has been in this process for some time, but it was his land use amendment earlier this year where the board said, you know, maybe it's time that we relook at this. So we have started that process, but didn't feel like we should hold up Mr. Hearing because he has been at this for some time.
But this is going to be in addition to for the rest of the area? Is that the neighborhood meeting about what's going to happen down the road?
Yes, there's several dozens of lots that front on River Park from just east of Aroso to US.
Okay, all right. Because I know we've been through this several iterations, so.
This is a public hearing, so with that, before we do so, I need to make sure we have any quasi-judicials documented. Turn to the board.
Sir. I did nothing.
I spoke to the applicant and the representative a long time ago on, I think it was a different issue, but I'll just say that for the record that I have spoken to you on the issue.
Yeah, I spoke both to the applicant and the representation of the applicant previously before we voted on the first issue. So.
Okay. And I previously had discussions as well with the client. With that, this is a public hearing. We will turn to the applicant.
Mr. Chairman, I must correct. I had spoken to the applicant. It's been some time ago, quite some time ago. I don't know whether that's...
Yeah, that's why I didn't know if
I'm not sure
it's
whether
all
that's
related.
germane to this hearing or not.
Is it necessary? Well, I'm going to have to do the same thing.
I don't know how far back we're going to go.
I was under the impression that it's not the same.
Right.
So.
Well, just in a...
I don't think it is, but...
Precaution.
Right. And I said the applicant, which technically I think we are the applicant on this item, but I know that you have been working obviously with Mr. Hearing. So good evening, Mr. Curry.
Good evening. For the record, Brad Curry, Land Design South. I believe we did meet with all of the board members as part of the future land use map amendment that was approved earlier this year by the board, but we have not met with you guys on the rezoning application. Tonight, again, I'm representing Mr. Sean Herring in his request to rezone the property from RS4 to commercial office. It's about a .65 acre piece of property. Again, you guys previously approved the future land use amendment to change it over to commercial office. Since that time, I've been working with Mr. Herring to get the zoning application in, as well as the site plan application that's going to be submitted right directly to the building department for building permit approval. Since the scale of this is so small, it doesn't receive a site plan approval through the planning and development services. It goes right to the planning department, right to the building department for building permit issuance. Really a three-step process: comp plan amendment or a future land use plan amendment approved earlier this year, the rezoning, which is before you tonight, and then the last time will be that actual issuance of the building permit to actually go out and construct a parking lot, drainage, and the landscape buffer. The request was approved by the Planning and Zoning Board on September 26th. Mr. Herring had a neighborhood meeting on September 17th, and only one person showed up, and that person was in support of the project. And I did see that same email that you guys saw earlier this afternoon. And really, this is the final public hearing of a process that really began back in May of 2007. At first, you guys may remember, Mr. Herring tried to take on making amendments to the River Park overlay on his own. And after several years of attempting that, I've really been working with him over the last year and a half to make this change. So again, this is the final public hearing. The individual who wrote that email had significant amount of time to write up before 4:30 or 5 o'clock this afternoon. So, and again, this is the last process, and we are following the overlay as the staff stated. If you have any questions for the applicant, I'd be happy to answer them, as well as Mr. Herring is here, and he can answer any questions about his proposed use for the property.
Thank you, Mr. Curry.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Curry, you made mention in your conversation right here that this doesn't have to come back to us for a site plan, and that the drainage and all that will be done through the building department. I'm a little concerned about that because it does sit next to a conservation and preservation area, which is largely along the North Fork waterway. So now that this is going to go to commercial and you're going to be improving the parking to some substantial level with increased impervious surface, can you share with us your intentions on the holding of that water on site for a period of time and making sure that it is properly cleansed before it ever gets discharged, if ever, to the lagoon, or I should say the North Fork?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Zadowski, we actually, I have a very good answer for that. Currently today, there's grass right up to the edge of the property line, and then at the property line it drops off along the western property line, and then along the south property line is actually a tributary of the North Fork. So right now there's grass right up to that line, and when it does rain, there's no way for the water to be stored on the property, and so I don't know if I use the word sheet flows, but I don't think it's like a waterfall that falls off the property, but the water lands on the property and runs to the south and also to the west. As part of this proposal, we have to install a 50-foot buffer around the perimeter of the property, which will take that grass off, will allow some filtration of the water as it does flow off the property. In addition to that, we have to have a stormwater treatment area. It's not a retention pond, it's a dry storage area on the property to catch that water off of the parking lot before it does outfall off the property. So really what we are going to be proposing, and we're well into that at this point, I actually have a meeting tomorrow. I'm sorry, it's the wrong project, but I've already met with the Environmental Resources Department on this project, and the buffer that's going to be there when we're done is actually better. The after situation is better than the before situation.
And that's what I wanted to hear from you tonight, because the Environmental Resources Department has placed in some of its changes along waterways some improvements with plantings and buffers and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to get from you, that you're agreeing that this will be addressed.
Yes, sir. We've designed the site to keep the parking lot actually out of that 50-foot area, and so we've taken that all into consideration. So rest assured that your staff is doing an excellent job in making sure that we meet all of the requirements.
Thank you, Mr. Satterley.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, and even though he's not going through the DRC process because of the scale of the project, the review is essentially the same and is just as rigorous when it comes to all of those requirements. So staff looks at all of that stuff, even though it's a small project.
I just want to be on the record.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, staff. Anyone else wishing to address the board at this time? With that, we will close general public comment from this hearing. We'll turn to the board.
Mr. Chairman, move approval, staff recommendation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been motioned and second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried unanimously. With that, we will turn to our regular agenda. We'll start with the county attorney. This is item number 1, FM Florida Land Company, LLC versus St. Lucie County Settlement Offer. Mr. McIntyre.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you indicated, this is a proposed settlement offer for board consideration. It involves a court case that the county is currently involved in. In way of background, just briefly on the background, and we'll get into more specifics with the settlement offer. Some years ago, a developer spent approximately $5 million to build and construct oversized water and wastewater facilities to provide water in the northern part of our community. Typically, there's a refund of some of that. About $2 million will be returned as people connect to the particular development that the developer had. There's about $2 million in what we call CF credits. That's really not in dispute. But there were other expenditures made where there was disputes involved in whether these were entitled to oversized credits or not. The developer felt like under the agreement and based on representations that were made to him by county staff and county consultants, the staff is different now than it was at that time, but basically the developer feels that there were commitments made for refunds up to $2.9 million plus interest at 5%. The county believes that under our extension policies, those oversized credits should really have been about $1.1 million. So there was a dispute there that would have gone to court actually tomorrow if we had not reached a settlement. We did reach a settlement. Of course, it's subject to board approval. The outline of the settlement is that the county would pay $1,550,000 to FM Florida within 60 days of approval in full satisfaction of the oversized payment. The connection fee credits that have already been talked about, the CF credits, would be paid to FM Florida when collected from the relevant property owners on an annual basis. We would receive an administrative service fee for our services. We would continue to collect guaranteed revenue fees and other utility charges from the current or future property owners as homes are connected. FM Florida would not be required to pay those fees and charges. When you analyze the settlement offer, it seems to me it's helpful to review the offer from a best case, worst case scenario, because that's really, I think, what a court's going to do. The best case scenario would be that the court would determine the amount of the oversized credit would be approximately $1,462,000 as of October, which would continue to accrue interest at 5% until paid. That's the best case. The worst case scenario would be for the court to determine that the amount of the oversized credit would be $3.7 million as of October, which would also continue to accrue interest at 5% until paid. The district isn't required to pay the oversized credit until new customers connect. However, since the oversized credit continues to accrue interest at 5%, the present value of the oversized credit obligation may be equal to or in excess of the future value of the contingent liability. Accordingly, staff believes that liquidating the contingent liability to a current fixed amount now, rather than paying an oversized credit with accruing interest over time, is in the best interest of the county, because it eliminates the variable increasing contingent liability that could negatively impact the county's future revenues and its ability to borrow funds at a favorable rate. I'll just note that we have a bond issue that's going to be discussed in several minutes. This was a contingent liability that had to be disclosed on the disclosure statement, but we did indicate it was subject to a settlement. Staff believes that the payment of the $1,550,000 as a liquidated payment amount is reasonable, as the amount reduces FM Florida's claim by approximately $2.1 million and represents only $90,000 over the amount the district claims is owed under the best scenario in the litigation. The county special counsel for utilities has reviewed and recommended approval of the settlement agreement. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. Any questions for counsel? Is there a proposed action?
Mr. Chairman, move staff recommendation.
We have a motion.
Second.
And second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. By the way, Mr. McIntyre, do you need a voice roll call on that item?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll turn to item number 2, Midway Road improvements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item is also in the nature of a settlement issue. but it relates to right-of-way along Midway Road. We are in the process of trying to finalize our right-of-way acquisition for the 4-laning of Midway Road. We narrowed it down to, we've achieved ownership of all but 6 parcels. If the board approves this, we're now down to 3. Those parcels, 2 of the 3 would like to convey title, but they can't get clear title. So this is a parcel that we will avoid having to file eminent domain action against if the board approves it. We know the board is anxious to try to resolve acquisition on a voluntary basis, and we try to accomplish that desire. As I've indicated, we have a proposed Midway Road improvement project. It's to 4-lane from South 25th Street to Selvitz Road. It'll have a 6-foot sidewalk on the north side and a 12-foot multi-use path on the south side. We will have to acquire additional property owned by this particular property owner. It's on the northwest corner of the intersection of Midway and Selvitz Road. It's a vacant parcel across from the gas station. We had an appraisal originally prepared by Mr. Fuller, of Fuller Armford Wagner. He's an independent appraiser that we contracted with. His original market value was $63,800 for the parcel that we need to acquire. We submitted the offer. There was a counteroffer made by the property owner in the amount of $115,000, and it included some comparable sales to support the counteroffer. We proposed and sent that information to our appraiser, Mr. Fuller, and he reviewed the comparable sales provided by the property owner, but he felt that the counteroffer was too high, and he felt that the maximum value that he could support was $90,000. We proposed that to the property owner, and they accepted that. A proposed contract for sale in the amount of $90,000 is attached. The proposed contract provides that the county will pay the property owner's appraiser and attorney's fees for the amounts as indicated. And the reason that is, Mr. Chairman, is that state law provides that if we try to acquire property, even under the threat of eminent domain, we are legally required to pay the owner's attorney's fees and costs, including appraisal or engineering fees. With any settlement offer, as the last item, it's appropriate to look at a best case, worst case scenario if the settlement offer is not accepted. In the best case scenario, there would be a trial before a jury, and the jury would accept the county's initial value as $63,800. In the best case scenario, the county would still be obligated to pay for our expert witness fees, our appraisal and engineering costs, as well as some attorney's fees by the property owner. It's likely that these costs, even in a best case situation, would exceed $30,000. In a worst case scenario, the jury would value the property at $115,000. As with the best case scenario, the county would be obligated to pay its expert witness costs as well as the property owner's expert witness costs. In a worst case scenario, we'd also have to pay an increased attorney fee because of the increase in value determined by the jury. It's likely that the amount of fees and costs in the worst case scenario would exceed $45,000. In this regard, and in view of the fact that we have negotiated a settlement within the maximum of value supported by the county's contract appraiser, staff recommends that the board approve the contract for sale and purchase in the amount of $90,000 based on the maximum value conclusion provided by Mr. Fuller in his October 14th letter.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. Any questions for council? Hearing none, is there an action?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the item? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried unanimously. With that, let's turn to item number 3, Resolution 2013-232. This is for the St. Lucie County Water and Sewer District Utility System Improvements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I indicated just a few moments ago, this is the resolution that, if adopted, would authorize the issuance of refunding bonds. There are resolutions prepared by the county's bond council. There's a master bond resolution. There's a supplemental resolution which authorizes the issuance of not to exceed $24 million of utility system improvement and refunding bonds. The proceeds of these bonds would be used to finance the cost and expansion of the existing North Hutchinson Island Regional Wastewater Treatment Facility, refund utility existing bonds for debt service savings, prepay the improvement refunding notes that were issued in 2009, and pay the cost of issuance. These bonds will be publicly offered and purchased initially by underwriters RBC Capital Markets and Citigroup Global Markets, Inc. The supplemental resolution provides that the Series 2013 bonds will be secured by a lien upon pledge revenues, which does not include ad valorem taxes. It's essentially net revenues of the utility system. These bonds will be subject to, I believe, to a bond insurance policy. We do have a memo from the county's financial advisor, which he was in the audience today, Mr. Jay Glover from Public Financial Management. The memorandum is dated October 25th, 2013. Mr. Glover estimates that the county, if it approves this, will achieve approximately $800,000 of net present value debt service savings through the refunding of the 3 bond issues that are in play here. The financing plan would result in an estimated interest cost of 4.5% based on current market conditions. Based on that information, PFM recommends that the board approve the proposed financing. With that in mind, Mr. Chairman, staff recommends that the board approve the proposed refunding resolutions as prepared by the county's bond counsel and other documents. As I indicated, Mr. Glover is in the audience if the board has any specific questions of him.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. Any questions for council or for Mr. Glover? Hearing none, is there an action?
Mr. Chairman, move staff recommendation.
We have a motion for staff recommendation.
Second.
It's been seconded. Any discussion on the item? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried unanimously. Mr. Glover, thank you as well for coming down to spend the evening with us. As always, though, you know our county attorney does a great job as well in making sure that your items flow smoothly. So we thank you for that, as well as the time you all spent ahead of time getting this item ready. With that, we're going to turn to items 4, 5, and 6, which I believe we have Mr. West, who's going to step in and help us out with those items. We'll begin with Resolution 2013-233. This is our request for staff to initiate amendments to the goals, policies, objectives for the Port of Fort Pierce Master Plan. Mr. West, good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. As you all are aware, the report that was issued recently by the Department of Transportation and the AECOM engineering team with regards to our Port Master Plan included a special chapter that was devoted to the topic of the establishment of a maritime academy. We have been in discussions with Dr. Ed Massey at the Indian River State College and in discussing the subject, and you have copies of letters in your agenda packets that were sent to the Department of Transportation. We have letters from the city, the county, and Indian River State College supporting the concept of moving forward with the idea of the creation of such an academy in Fort Pierce. The DOT staff recommended to the city and county that we should consider amending our Port Master Plan document to include this concept in our policy documents to be able to pursue the grant funding from the state. Our Harbor Advisory Committee also recommended inclusion of the Maritime Academy in a short-term amendment process in order to expedite the process and get this in the policy document. Furthermore, the Harbor Advisory Committee also went on to recommend the creation of a blue ribbon committee for the establishment of the Maritime Academy, as this is also something that is mentioned in the DOT and AECOM report. You have copies of the recommendation letter from Harbor Advisory Committee in your agenda packet, and Mr. McIntyre has crafted a resolution document that would recommend adding the Maritime Academy to the Port Master Plan. A copy of the resolutions in your packets for your review, and staff is recommending formal adoption of the resolution tonight. With that, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. West. Any questions for Mr. West?
Mr. Chair, this isn't necessarily a question of the staff. It's more to the board. And in reviewing over the committee makeup that was recommended, I was kind of taken aback and have had conversations with some of the representatives from Port St. Lucie, but I would like to suggest that if we remain following the proposed Blue Ribbon Committee, that Port St. Lucie also have a seat at the table.
If I may, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Hutchinson, I'm definitely in agreement with that.
Thank you.
Because this is not Fort Pierce's port. This is not St. Lucie County's port as a government entity, but it's the county's port. And North and South County will have an opportunity to have jobs. So that's definitely the direction that we want to go in.
Well, thank you for that. And I know in talking to some of their members, there is interest in being on there. So.
And, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, I support that as well. Of course, we have the largest city to our south, and they should be at the table.
Okay, I think we have consent on that. All right, any other discussion on this item?
If I may, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make one more statement. The great benefit of this project is, as we're moving forward, and we hope to move quickly as possible, is that it would be one of its own kind in the state of Florida, and so which would draw tourists and jobs and create opportunities for us to be looked at as a major place to come to train, to work, and play. So I'm encouraged by it, and I like the direction that we're going relative to it.
And Mr. Chairman, for the public's purview, in our backup material, the maritime academies that were listed clearly define that the Northeast is largely the area where maritime academies exist, and California has one, and the closest one to the southeast region is the Texas Maritime Academy. So we are, with this process, if we approve it tonight, and getting it at least into our comprehensive plan as an amendment, gives us an opportunity to be the centerpiece for maritime education. And with Indian River State College being a partner in the opportunity to provide that education, I think it can be very successful for the entire region, but certainly for St. Lucie County. So I'm in support.
Mr. Chairman, just occurs to me in looking at this, just a thought I had. The way this came out of the original process, I think it's kind of assuming that this project would start from, Maritime Academy would start from the ground up, a perfectly blank slate kind of thing. While I think I would certainly support the establishment of a blue ribbon committee so that there would be buy-in from the community, I think we're a few steps ahead of that already with Dr. Massey's interest and the support of the community of IRSC, the State College, I think we're a little bit further ahead. I mean, this indicates that you need to identify community advocates and put a committee together, and what is the committee's role. I really think we're a few steps ahead of what they're proposing. So once again, while I would support the committee, I think it would probably be structured a little bit differently than this particular document suggests we go forward.
Mr. Chair, can I follow up on that? Commissioner, I agree with you because the details weren't there, so I was hesitant, but the one thing that stuck out, as I mentioned, was not having Port St. Lucie at the table, which I thought was important. Mm-hmm. But I'm in agreement with you. I'd like to see what the layout is. Is that the staff's intent, is to bring back how that board's going to be, if they're going to be like terms with the appointments, or if it's somebody, I don't know. Other than just names of things, there's not much there.
Well, given the fact that there is an existing educational entity that's prepared to take part in this, as I said, this reads to me as if you're just starting from a blank slate and you're beginning, ground zero. I think we've already got a leg up on that. So while I think a committee, once again, I think a committee is a good idea to make sure the community's aware of what's going on. I think we need to think outside of this document a little bit. Dr. Massey has already indicated his interest in kind of picking that up with the college's support, or, that it would come out of the college, I think. So I'm just indicating, just a thought I had, that I think we're a few steps ahead of this, and I think we need to kind of, once again, maybe step aside from this document and handle things a little bit differently than is suggested.
And I think both of those goals can be accomplished, both directions, and part of it is that the resolution that we're looking at tonight is really about the concept of the Maritime Academy and how that may develop and where it may go and who may be a part of that, I think, is what will be. That's the fun part about this process, and I think we all as a group, as well as the City of Fort Pierce, liked the idea of where this may go. So I think there are some solid aspects related to that. Any other comments related to this particular item?
Mr. Chairman, are we taking all four of these separately?
We'll be doing each of these separately. I was just pitching it by bringing Mr. West up, recognizing the fact that he would be addressing us on all three items.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to mention also we are trying to schedule this for the Planning and Zoning Board November the 21st, so that we can expedite moving forward with the amendment process.
Mr. Chair, if there's no further discussion or questions, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve staff recommendation.
And I'll go ahead on the second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried unanimously. With that, we'll turn to item number 5. Again, Mr. West. This is going to be regarding potential funding for infrastructure projects recommended by the Harbor Advisory Board.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. At our workshop meeting on the port in August, the board did direct the staff to bring back a list of infrastructure projects to be included in the port master plan. This would allow the city and the county to be able to seek state grant funding next year in the next grant cycle. The city and county staff reviewed the consensus infrastructure plan that was put together in the report prepared by the AECOM engineering team. And all of the identified projects that we put forth were located on public-owned properties or within a public road right-of-way. And in your agenda packets, you have a copy of the memo from the Harbor Advisory Committee, wherein they recommended a short listing of 3 projects.
By the way, Mr. McIntyre, are you able to pull that up for the audience to be able to see the map as well, or do we have that?
Mr. West.
Mr. McIntyre.
Yes.
Mr. West. That's a first.
You don't want me to do anything technology-wise. I can't even get into my computer.
I do have a. Let's see if I can get this to come up. I'm not sure.
I know we have the
I might
graphic.
need some technical help to bring this up while I'm talking about it here. But I did want to mention we do have a map, and I can show you that in just a second. But a point of clarification I wanted to make too, just for the audience as well, is that this is not the only opportunity that we will have to include infrastructure projects in the Port Master Plan. We have 3 projects that we're looking at tonight to shortlist and include in the Port Master Plan document so that we can seek funding for those projects fairly quickly. But we'll have another opportunity to include additional projects in the master plan as we proceed through a more long-term look at the policy document next year. This is really just a short-term amendment intended to set us up for some pursuing the funding. But as I mentioned, you have in your agenda packet, you have a memo from the Harbor Advisory Committee that lists 3 projects. And the projects that were selected by the Harbor Advisory Committee are the Fisherman's Wharf area of the port. We have intentions to look at the Fisherman's Wharf roadway and improve that roadway area, and including drainage in that area, as well as improving the looks of the road. We also have a project listed to improve the shoreline protection along the Harbor Point property, which is the 20 acres out on the northeast corner of the port. As you know, we've had some severe erosion along that shoreline over the last several years, and our intent there would be to go in and try to put some kind of stabilization along the shoreline.
Like it's on the top of the list.
Let's see, I'm not sure which one it is.
It's all the way up top.
All the way.
There is a map in tonight's agenda, if that helps.
There it is. That's it.
I think it's just
And finally, the last project is this in the city marine area. Thank you. The city marine area. We have the map up on the screen now. Near the boat ramp, near the boat ramp over along the South Causeway area. There's an area shown on the map here in green, and this is the area of the marina and the docks, right adjacent to the boat ramp. And our intention there, that's the 3rd project that was listed. The idea would be to go in and refurbish those bulkhead areas and perhaps even improve the bulkheads so they'd have a little more capacity as well. The Fisherman's Wharf project that I mentioned is shown in red here on the map, and it would tie in directly with the project that we're currently working on, which is to improve 2nd Street. And where the red starts is where it would connect to the 2nd Street. This is 2nd Street right in this area here. And then finally, the Harbor Point property is up on the very northeast corner of the port, and it's shown here in green. It's this green shoreline area. And as you know, the county owns that 20 acres that we call Harbor Point, and that's the area where we would go in and do some shoreline improvement. We're not quite sure what a lot of these projects would consist of in terms of details. It's more, we're really talking just concept at this point, just to get them in the policy document so that we can proceed with acquiring grant funding. As these projects develop, they would have to go through a full design process and permitting, so we'd have plenty of opportunity, to see how the details would work out for each of these projects as we proceed with them. But at this point, we just want to get them in the document. So Mr. McIntyre, once again, has prepared a resolution that you have attached to your agenda packets, and it puts forth, it lists the 3 projects, and it directs the staff to move forward with the short-term amendment of our policy document. With that, Mr. Chairman, any questions you might have?
Thank you, Mr. West. Any questions for staff? Just a comment that I want to make. I feel like I often make this comment. I want to make sure that I realize as we're trying to promote the port, many times if you look at the word promotion, 2/3 of that word promotion is the word motion. So I realize we're trying to make motion, but as we do that, I want to caution us that we don't create projects that perhaps will later be torn out or be wasteful projects based upon the nature of how things develop in an area. And so when I look at things as that, the one project that would go back to Harbor Point, we have no idea how that area will develop, and the amount of money that we could spend on infrastructure and utilities and drainage into an area like that, and then later have somebody come along with an idea, could drastically change that. I know when I was in town management in Jupiter, we really struggled with our area all around the lighthouse and how that entire area would develop. And today they're starting to get a good feel and nature for that with the Guanabanas restaurant and other similar type uses, but it's one where they've really exercised that caution. They've tried to actively work to promote a public-private partnership in that area, and I think we want to do the same thing. We want to see activity. We want to see some things happen. We want to see our comp plan representing items of interest, but we also want to make sure, I think, that we want to be cautious with the types of projects that we do. So we're not just spending money to spend money and then have people later realize that that was all for naught. And I think more in particular would be related to the drainage project and the 2nd Street work, especially as you get closer to 12A Bowie and realizing some of the things that we have proposed for that area. With that being said, any other comments that we have for staff or that we would like to comment on?
I understand your thought process on that with not spending money just to spend money, but we've lost about an acre of the 20 acres at the Harbor Point because of erosion, and if we don't do something along that area, we could continue to see it erode away. So I just wanted to point that out to you. But that said, I will move staff recommendation for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and by the way, I agree with you. That is one where I think the bulkheads or the shoreline protection for that is an important one. I was thinking more about the infrastructure projects inside the internal roadway areas where we start just putting in roads because that's where a current dirt road is today, and so we'll put one in and then later find out that someone has a neat project in mind that just doesn't fit with the nature of that. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on the item? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried unanimously. With that, we will turn to the last item, item number 6. This is the creation of a Blue Ribbon Committee for the Maritime Academy, as recommended in the FDOT AECOM report. With that, again, Mr. West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Once again, Mr. McIntyre has prepared a resolution attached to your agenda packets that outlines the general idea behind the Blue Ribbon Committee. It also talks a little bit about, the purpose would be certainly to build a coalition in the community, as we talked about. But, I think that as we put this committee together, part of their mission, as I see it, developing a public and private partnership and, navigating through the process required is going to take a lot of research, I think, on our part. And I think the committee will be very useful to us in that regard to do some of the necessary research to identify what we what do we need to do to actually create a maritime academy in terms of infrastructure needs, how do we operate it, what kind of capital are we going to need and what kind of equipment and so on. So there's a lot of things I think that we can work with the committee on. I took note of the board's comments with regard to the makeup of the committee, and I think I can work with Mr. McIntyre to make those adjustments. And if the board would like, we can certainly come back to you with with more detail on the makeup of the committee, or if you'd like to approve it tonight in concept, and I can work with Mr. McIntyre and to make those adjustments. If that would be acceptable to the board, we can approve it tonight and move forward with that, with that idea that we would bring back the final result to the board members. We can share that with you on an individual basis and just make sure that you're all comfortable with it. If you'd like to move forward with approving it tonight.
Yeah,
Whatever the pleasure of the board.
And Mr. Chairman, in going through the language, it says following may be considered for inclusion on such a committee. And Dan, you're our legal beagle. That leaves it open that it can be changed and adjusted and so on before it's actually created. Is that not correct?
Yes, sir. What we did, just for discussion purposes, is use the AECOM recommendations word for word. We thought that was a good starting point. Like some of the commissioners, we perhaps feel that this committee may be a bit too large, just in terms of people on it. One thought from a staff perspective is that there's a couple of categories where there's 2 representatives from each. You might want to just have 1. So that would cut it down by 2. You'd add the Port St. Lucie, you're down to 9 then. So that may be something the board might want to consider. Again, not suggesting that those particular categories are bad or anything. It's just trying to, if you want to parse it down a little bit and make it a little more manageable from a staff perspective. In other words, you'd have 1 representative from the Longshoremen Association. It doesn't need to be, it could be national or local, and then 1 community advocate. You'd add Port St. Lucie, then you'd have 9. There could be others that you could perhaps, as I think Commissioner Lewis and Commissioner Hutchison suggested, we're pretty far along. Maybe we don't need some of the other representatives there because we're already we already know what we want here. We're just trying to figure out how to get there.
I personally was kind of puzzled by the representatives from big box retailers, but who am I?
When I first read it, I thought it said real estate, so I thought that made sense, but, realtors, board of realtors or something, but when I first read that, but.
A couple of comments then on that. It sounds as though we have some questions on the big box retailers, so maybe we'll want to amend that. In looking at this, Mr. McIntyre had a question on just the appointing aspects of that, because it mentioned the committee members and the 10 members that would be in place. There was also a section that mentions, I think it was under item 4, each member shall serve at the discretion of the appointing commissioner or entity as applicable. We didn't seem to define who was actually going to be making these appointments, so whether or not we as a group were going to be deciding and then going through to determine who would be representing
Yes, sir.
on those areas. So we may want to make that clear.
Yes,
I know
sir.
we get into the fact that 5 members actually make a quorum, which is a little interesting because usually it's 6 members versus 50% of those members being present.
Right. I think one of the problems with a large committee is sometimes you have problems with quorum because of the increase. But that's something for the board to consider. Obviously, the board would appoint the representative from the county board of commissioners. The city commission would presumably, we'd ask them to appoint somebody in the city council from Port St. Lucie. So those entities, I thought the remaining entities would be appointed by the Board of County Commissioners, the remaining representatives. Well, actually, the college would appoint somebody from the college. I guess technically we could ask the Workforce Development Board. So maybe our only appointments would be the longshoreman, the community advocate, and a representative from the trade. So there actually would be only a few appointees if we go to the entities themselves and ask for recommendations.
And that's why then item 4 we would just say would each member shall serve at the discretion of the commission or entity versus commissioner.
Right. Yes, sir. We'll certainly modify that.
Because, otherwise, Lewis, she's going to want to appoint them all, and we're going to get cut out. And
She's trouble.
She's trouble.
I'm quite honestly wondering what this committee is going to do. That's kind of puzzling me as to, if we were starting from ground zero, I could understand getting a group of people together to brainstorm as to how we might proceed. But as I said earlier, we're not starting from there. I think, quite honestly, that the college probably has a pretty good process for adding what would it be, another college or something? I don't know what term you'd use, adding another department. I'm just really puzzled as to what this group will be doing. So the concept of getting 10 or 11 people together and we don't know what we're going to tell them to do kind of boggles my mind, but maybe somebody else has a better concept of where we're going with this.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I'm a little concerned because, you know, I would love to approve the concept of it, but I'm concerned when we are not in discussion with other people, quote unquote, who are part of this board that's developing the situation with the port, be it both cities at the table, and then that's pretty much talking about how we want this situation set up. And I'm kind of a little uncomfortable about that.
But realize again, this is a Blue Committee report only on the Maritime Academy.
Nothing else.
So this is not replacing the Harbor Advisory Committee.
Right.
This is just for this Maritime Academy. And so I think relative to Commissioner Lewis's question or comment, we may want to maybe think about the group in the sense that maybe you want initially a smaller group that can directly focus on this with the college, rather than trying to have a much larger group and meanwhile having the college say, well, here's what we're wanting to do.
Well, that's kind of what, tonight really all we're asking, I would assume, that I would rather have it very simple, is that the concept that we would include putting together one. I think the details need to be done in conjunction with IRSC.
Okay.
So if all we're doing is just adding this to the master plan, the port master plan, that we would consider putting together a blue ribbon for the Maritime Academy, I think that's enough for tonight. Instead of nitpicking, I personally would, I'm like Commissioner Lewis was saying, I would like IRSC to be working hand in hand. I do know they've already moved way much further ahead than all of us on this.
But this
and are
isn't
investigating. So this is we need their input on this.
This resolution request, though, is not to add this to the comp plan or to put that into the plan. This is actually just dealing with the full establishment of a Blue Ribbon Committee. So this is a completely separate item. So if you want, I mean, maybe we have this change so that way we're conceptually approving the development of a Blue Ribbon Committee and then work further on that. Mr. McIntyre, do you have?
Yes, sir. I think with all the comments, that might be the appropriate action if the board just by direction conceptually approves the appointment of the committee. And what we'll do, staff has input. We'll get with Dr. Massey in the college and talk to him about how he sees this Blue Ribbon Committee interacting with him, because he is, I think, going to take the lead as we see it.
Correct.
And we'll ask him about the makeup of the committee, the need for the committee, and then we'll come back on December the 3rd, hopefully with a formal resolution. And in the interim, we'll talk to you all, give you a copy of it so we can try to get your input. I don't think we need to act tonight. Do you, Mr. West, at this point?
No, sir. As long as we get it in the policy document by reference, that's really our main goal tonight.
Right, and we've done that. I think the board's already approved that.
And
So,
once again,
Mr. Chairman, we'll just defer, unless the board wants to take action, we'll just defer action at the staff level and bring it back on the 3rd.
Perfect. So we'll defer action on the actual full establishment of the Blue Ribbon Committee until December.
Or just prove, I hear what you're saying there, but I think we need to move forward with the resolution to get it as a policy document.
Yes.
And then we can work on the details at a later time.
Yes, sir. That's exactly right.
And I would like to make that motion.
Mr. McIntyre, do you agree that?
Yeah, I'm here
Well,
to
we,
see things.
I think in the way I understand it, we've already incorporated draft language in a comp plan that would talk about the Blue Ribbon Committee. So if the board would just direct that we would put that language in the policy document, we will proceed. If you want to make a formal motion to that effect, that's fine too. But I think we understand that the board is approving the concept of a Blue Ribbon Committee to be determined later as far as the makeup goes.
I thought that's what I said.
yeah, same thing.
That was my motion, so.
Mr. Chairman, I think we should defer because it said this resolution in the language says this board does hereby create the Blue Ribbon Committee. Such committee shall have the following duties and functions. Okay, we've already indicated that this might not be quite the direction we need to take because we're at a different place in our planning. It also says this committee shall consist of 10 members who shall be appointed as followed. I mean, there's some fairly specific directions in here that I think we've just indicated we're not willing to make at this point. So I'd like to look at doing it conceptually and perhaps bring it back at another date when the comments we've made can be incorporated and something else can be done.
Is that a second?
No, because you said to pass the resolution, and I'm saying I don't
Well,
think
the
so.
resolution for the conceptual creation of the Blue Ribbon Committee and to work
it
on the
says-
details of that at a later time.
And- well,
it
and
says
it says-
nothing of all of what you just pointed
Well,
out.
that's what's in this resolution, so.
Okay, I have
it-
a
I'm
motion from
confused.
Commissioner Zadowski. Is there a second to,
I second the motion, but I'll also.
for discussion, okay?
And let me go back to Dan while we're here.
Look,
Wait a minute.
Let me just, the way I understand the motion is we're just conceptually, we're not approving the
Just a
resolution.
conception, correct.
We're conceptually approving the creation of a Blue Ribbon Committee, the makeup of which will be coming back to the board on December 3rd, after we've discussed it with Indian River College. We're not appointing anybody, we're just conceptually approving the concept of a committee.
Correct.
So we can move forward in the policy document.
And with that said, I would like to, of course, Indian River State College itself will take the lead on this process, but I would like all parties to, in some kind of capacity, be involved in that. And that's all I was saying. So.
That's not necessarily what the motion is at this point, and all parties may
Right,
not
no,
be
that was
involved
just,
per se.
that was just a
because
comment.
IRSC is
That
going-
wasn't a part of the motion, that was just a comment.
That will all be decided later. So,
Yes,
okay,
it'll all be
relative to
decided
this
later.
motion,
Okay.
we have a first and a second relative to creating that. Any questions on this very clear motion? Hearing no comments. Kelly, I'm glad you are over there jotting these down, because between you and Mr. McIntyre, you'll get it correct. I know you will. Thank you. All those in favor of the clear motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you, staff. We appreciate your patience on that. With that, we will turn to item B, administration. This is regarding our single-stream recyclables processing facility. With that, we will turn to Mr. Binkowski. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you. This item is a request for the board to consider approving a bid to construct a single-stream recyclables processing facility. The facility consists of a 35,000 square foot pre-engineered metal building to house the single-stream processing equipment at our solid waste facility, and it will be utilized to process recyclable materials that are collected at the curbside using a standardized cart that will be issued by Waste Pro to customers in the unincorporated area of the county and the city of Port St. Lucie.
Just one second. I want to make sure everybody, can you all hear okay?
I'm sorry,
'Cause
can
I
you
know
hear me now?
it's quiet, yeah.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Thank you. And I apologize for the audience. We're playing with a new audio system that they just worked on, and the guys in the back are trying to tweak the mics and working through this, so I'm sure after tonight, this is our live run-through on the mics.
Yeah, I think
they're a little bit more sensitive.
I think I have the right distance here, so I think I'm good now. But just to continue, as the board knows, back in May, the board approved a bid for the purchase and installation of the single-stream recycling equipment that will be installed into this facility. Now, on October 2nd, we opened the bids for this, and we received one bid in the amount of $2,399,500. Only one bid was received out of the 52 bid documents that were distributed, and 586 companies that were notified of the bid. Now, the sole bidder, Jacquin and Sons, who made the proposal for the $2.4 million construction cost, has assured the county that the project can be substantially completed in 180 days from the release of the permit at the bid price, as I've stated, assuming a start date of around January 1, and that's going to be subject to permit approval by the city of Fort Pierce. The processing facility would be substantially completed and operational by around July 1, 2014. Now, I do want to address for a moment an issue that we discussed at our informal meeting last week with respect to the apprenticeship labor requirement. The bid did allow an alternative labor percentage if the bidder was unable to meet the 20% apprenticeship requirement, and Jacqueline & Sons committed to 5% plus minus apprenticeship labor. And what I want to make clear to the board tonight is that if you do approve this bid, that prior to the construction contract being finalized and incorporating this into the construction contract would be the need to clarify that percentage. And we would strive to have that percentage increased upwards of 20%, depending on the availability of apprenticeship labor. I want to also make the board aware that the areas of the apprentices that are currently available, and this of course could change, is in the areas of the iron workers and the mechanical trades, which includes sheet metal, HVAC, and pipe fitters. Right now, that's where there is availability. So those areas, we would work with the contractor before finalizing the contract to have apprenticeship labor and set more specific apprenticeship labor percentages. So with that, we are recommending that the board approve this bid so we can move forward with the construction and implement the transition to the single stream system in both the city of Port St. Lucie and the unincorporated area of the county.
Thank you, Mr. Bienkowski. Any other comments? Okay. Commissioner Hutchinson, I know you had a comment at the last meeting as to clarification on that program about the local versus
Right,
the apprenticeship.
that there was some numbers that were thrown out, and I've yet to see the answer to that. And the question I'd asked was in regards to how many of them were St. Lucie County residents that were said that they were available. Oh, I'm sorry. There you are.
We have Desiree Semino, for the record, Chairman, Commissioners. We have received confirmation from the trades that all the apprentices that are available are from the four-county area, which is
they're in a what?
allowable, from the four-county area.
That is how our local preference ordinance is defined by the four-county area.
I understand that, but I also understand that Okeechobee is no longer honoring that, number one. So that's something I'd like to bring up down the road at another time, but we do have that issue out there. But again, my question specifically was how many were St. Lucie County residents?
All of the apprentices
Okay.
were.
Great.
So I'm sorry, they're from a four-county radius, or they're all from St. Lucie County?
I'm sorry, the majority are from St. Lucie County, but all of them are from a four-county area, which is what the apprenticeship covers, is the four-county area.
And Mr. Chairman, we do have the opportunity that the Green Collar Apprenticeship Program, I don't know what your title is, you're not a director or whatever, but you were part of the creation of it. So,
and that's what I was just trying to get confirmed, because there seemed to come into question that day during the informal.
and Mr. Chairman, I did send to Ms. Outlaw a list of documents that I had asked for through the Green Collar Apprenticeship Program, and to substantiate the availability. So I'll just share with you, and this is a regular agenda when I have public comment, but I have deep concerns that our 20% measure is not being reached on these types of builds. There is a substantial investment that was made by the trades in the partnership that was created. Many of us agreed, who are on this board today, were part of that process and supported it, and the upwards now of $1 million in cost, labor, product materials, and training has been provided to the citizens of this county, and we're not holding up our end of the deal. And I think we do a good job at creating public-private partnerships and opportunities for success, and we did that in this case. The unfortunate part is we're not putting those people to work to sustain that opportunity to get more people trained, because they're getting paid, they're getting trained at no cost, getting through the process, becoming part of the the population, trained population, that we're going to need going forward as we recover from this downturn in the economy, if you will, depression, recession, whatever you want to call it. So hundreds of people have been trained through this process, but it's not going to be able to sustain itself if those folks aren't contributing back. And that's partly what we're trying to do here today, and what we've been trying to do with that whole partnership agreement. So I'm not going to support this without the 20% requirement, simply because we haven't lived up to our obligation and what we went into as a partnership. That's just my thoughts on this.
If I may, Mr. Chair, adding to what Commissioner Zadov said, first of all, I want to say that Mr. Mitchell does a great job with the gentleman that he has. As a matter of fact, his son-in-law won a regional contest relative to their apprenticeship, which was very big. It was never won in this area. So that was big kudos to them. Also, with that said, I didn't get a chance to meet with Mr. Mitchell as well as Mr. Jacquin. And I think we had a very cordial meeting. And I think that we all were trying to be on the same page. But at the end of the day, they've invested $1 million. They're training. They're trying to create jobs and opportunities for young men in this area. And we need to not allow our reputation to be spoiled by not following through what we stated to them. So with that said, with the commitment that we have, that commitment should be that we provide an opportunity for those jobs to take place. And I need to understand and really get an idea and a feel for how we can negotiate that opportunity with Mr. Jacquin, and make this happen at all costs.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Lewis?
I don't remember specifically what the numbers were that were stated, but I seem to remember when we discussed this at our workshop a week or so ago, Ms. Semino indicated that there was some shortage of those numbers. It didn't quite reach that percentage of the folks available did not quite meet that number.
There were trades that were listed in the project that there are no longer apprenticeship programs for.
Right.
So we can't require the contractor to meet that percentage for those that we don't have somebody registered with St. Lucie County. On the areas that Mr. Binkowski mentioned, which is the iron workers, sheet metal, HVAC, and pipe fitters, we do have, I believe, sufficient apprentices available through the Green Collar Task Force.
So we would basically have to break the job down into categories as far as percentages? I'm not sure how that, I mean, if we're looking, my understanding was that we were talking about an overall number in a given job. And it seems to me that if you're not looking at all the categories of workers, you would have a problem meeting the percentage.
It's the resolution is 20% of each trade that is included
okay,
in
it
the
is
project.
broken down. Okay,
Yes.
thank you. I was not aware of that. I'd forgotten that part. Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, just so you know, the reason why some of these trades are backing out of the apprenticeship program, it's not because they don't want to be there. It's just because we haven't been able to provide the opportunities for success, for getting into the program. So I assure you that as this county begins to hold up its end of the bargain, those groups would come back and be part of the process. As I said, it's been indicated that up to $1 million has already been invested on the trade side. So I just have a concern of if we had been putting people to work through the process as indicated the way we created the ordinance to help recycle the dollars in St. Lucie County through this process and keeping citizens trained and a ready workforce, those folks would be there. So,
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chair, could I just make a quick comment? I'm kind of, while I understand Commissioner Zadowski's concern, and I certainly share it, I do want to make it clear that when, the statement that we haven't put them to work and we haven't held up our end of the bargain, it's been because the work hasn't been done. We haven't put contracts out and not followed through. There was an inability on our part to do any work there for a while. So now that things are coming back around and we're beginning to look at doing projects again, that's why we're having this discussion this evening. I don't want to make it sound as if, we've just been moving on along and not paying any attention to agreements or commitments we had made. Unfortunately, we were not able to fulfill our part of the deal, so to speak, by putting folks to work because we weren't doing the work. We were unable to. So,
I
just
beg
a
to
comment.
differ, Commissioner. The courthouse was one of those that we could have done that and
It was federal money, sir. We're not allowed to do that.
could have done it.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner
I think
Hudson.
Commissioner Lewis, you were taking words right out of my mouth. No. So I thank you for that, but I'm just going to add to it. I had thought that the whole process, and Mr. Mitchell, kudos to all of you for what you've done, because what we're seeing is, I don't think that was put together as a way for the government basically to provide the jobs as they're trained. It was put together so they could retain a job, hopefully in the private sector, which you've been very successful with from what I understand on the numbers that you've been sending in. They are getting jobs, may not be right here, but again, it's one of those, the intent, as I recall, was that in the event that the county had projects, was to try to work, and Commissioner Lewis, you filled in the rest with, to my knowledge, there's only been one project.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, and that being the case, that it may be, moving forward, we still need to honor our word. We still need to honor our commitment relative to this current situation, and make sure that we're on the same page, because they gave an investment. We have a partnership, and besides that, it's tax dollars coming back to this area based upon people who are living in this county, working and taking care of their families. And companies that we're working with need to work with people who are available and a part of our partnership.
Good comments. I think we could go on for quite a while in this area, and there are a lot of pros and cons back and forth that have been addressed over the years. We've had projects that contractors have felt as though they were already not being able to employ their current employees if they had to participate in the apprenticeship program, as well as you have the flip side of that. So I think we go back and forth on that, and I think what we've been learning is to just make sure that we're doing the right thing across the board. With that being said, this again is an item that needs some action from the board. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to move approval, but it's going to be based off of not the discussion, which was a good one that we had, but mostly based off of there's a time frame that I feel that we had made a commitment to also that needs to be met. In light of that and some of the agreements that we committed to with the City of Port St. Lucie, I'm moving staff recommendation.
We have a motion for staff recommendation. Is there a second on that item?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Any other discussions
Comments?
related to this item?
Yes. I would motion to approve, be it that the percentage is identified for the apprenticeship, and we follow through on that.
It will be.
Yes,
Okay.
we would do that.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I still have reservations on how the bid process occurred, and that only one bidder bid, the way it was explained to me in my meetings with Ms. Outlaw, that the bid process was flawed and it was not properly done, and that it should go out for rebid. That's my position. And again, I've heard 3 different iterations of how the bid process worked in that. And the fact that only one bidder came in gives me a great pause. And the fact that our staff had indicated $1.6 million or $1.3 million for the project, and it's coming in double of the estimated amount. So I have some concerns about that as well.
Mr. Chairman, may I
Commissioner
ask
Hudson.
staff to go on record if this bid process was flawed both by the Attorney's Office and administration?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this bid was handled appropriately. The bid specifications were clear, and I have no qualms about how this bid was handled. The fact that we received only one bid, there may be a couple of reasons for that. but nonetheless, we only received the one bid, but that had nothing to do with the bid being flawed or anything of that nature. The one bidder that did respond was responsive to the bid specifications as we stated in the bid itself. And so I have no qualms about how this bid was handled.
And Mr. Chairman, as far as the estimated bid price, I think my recollection was Mr. Roberts at our informal meeting explained to the board why the bid estimate was originally low. We were assuming that the county would process this, and in fact, it's inside the city, and because of city requirements that are, and I'm suggesting that they're not appropriate, but it expanded the cost. It's my understanding, though, that the engineering estimate that we had for this project was substantially over the $2.3 million. So this is actually, I believe that's accurate. I think CDM is in the audience. I believe the engineering estimate was about $4 million. So I think, given that, I think this is a good deal for the county, and I am also unaware of any bid flaws.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. I think it's clear to get those points on the record. I know I had discussions with several of the contractors as we were going through the development of this for an agenda item, and there were some questions that were raised, but I think we've been able to work through those with staff. I know staff in the audience have worked aggressively on trying to make sure that they took the time to work through that. Commissioner, I know you have your questions, so I appreciate your comments on that, but I want to make sure that people are clear that this process was developed the way it was supposed to be developed as it relates to the apprenticeship program. I think that the applicant is doing what has been requested at this point in time, and I think things are clear. Staff, is there anything else that you need to provide? I know you're here and you're ready and prepared. Is there any other comment that you'd like to make relative to what your other team is making? Justin? Hello? Okay. Okay, thank you. That, we have a motion. We have a second on that. Anything else? With that, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Motion, we had 4-1 on that. Okay, that brings us to the end of our agenda. Mr. Benkowski, any announcements in particular that you'd like to mention tonight?
You have a busy November, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Just very quickly, this Thursday you have a special meeting where you'll hear a presentation on the 750 plan. One note, November 11th is Veterans Day and the county offices will be closed. The board has an informal meeting scheduled for November 12th at 9 a.m. And then the board on November 12th, following that informal, will hold an ethics training workshop. On November 19th, the board has its annual reorganization meeting at 9 a.m. here in the Commission chambers. And then on November 26th, we have another budget workshop on our capital budget. And then following that, on same date, November 26th, there will be a ethics training workshop. And then, as just a matter of note, the county offices will be closed for the Thanksgiving holiday on Thursday, November 28th and November 29th.
Thank you, Mr. Benkowski. With that, any other announcements from commissioners? Comments?
I'd actually just like to say thank you to the Parks and Rec staff for helping, and also our GIS department in helping me prepare the educational forum that was held in Fort Pierce. I'd also like to thank the City of Fort Pierce, the Marina staff, the staff at the Community Center in helping us get that up and going, working through the permit process, and they actually offered us the stage to participate from. And it was very well attended, lots of great comments, and probably for the first time we actually had a give and take question and answer session. The public is very interested in what is happening to our waterways, lagoons, and they're very involved. And I hope to do this continually through the dry season so that we don't lose the momentum, keeping our state legislators informed and understanding the value of the Indian River Lagoon at over $4 billion as an economic engine. And I just want to again say thank you to the public for coming out it was a great opportunity to educate the community and great comments back and forth. And I'd like to thank my executive aide, Allie, for really working hard and helping coordinate all that. It was done rather quickly, and a lot of logistics were involved in it. So I just want to send out my thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anything else? By the way, we have an exciting Playscape project that's being performed by the Rotary Club right outside our door. I know they're looking for volunteers. If you're interested in helping out, I know they're going to have a busy Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, so they would love to have your participation. Swing by, watch the fun, participate, bring donuts, bring energy, as they say.
Build it from A to Z.
From A to Z. Okay, with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned.